Hello, everybody. Oh, I tell you, I just can't get myself together today. Um, Trying to get something straight real quick so I don't miss it. Okay, this live has to have a trigger warning. Just has to have one. It's Let me fix my sound here a little. I don't want to be yelling at everybody. How's that? Is that better?
That's good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Um, this video today has to have a trigger warning. And I don't think I have a big enough trigger warning to. I'm all messed up with my head thing. Well, it's not a good day when you put your headset on backwards. Whew. Boy, oh boy. Oh, today is the third day of January. What do you think about that? It's just the third day of January. I've been late for every live. I just haven't adjusted to this timeline yet at all. Now my phone's gonna go off. Um, had to fix that. I want to have this disclaimer up here for this copyright, and a trigger warning out. I don't think there's a trigger warning big enough for this case right here. I really don't. I searched through a lot of stories to bring to you guys. And I've done a lot of horrible parents with their kids. Um, and I thought I had, you know, reached them all. I thought I had found the worst ones, but I had not. So I'm going to talk to you about y'all about Mitchelle. That's her name. It's not Michelle. It's Mitchelle Blair. So right out the gate, hold on. Let me take this down.
Why did you take the Why did you take the decision?
Whew, I'm just not on track today. Um, I'm just not. So let me pull this back a second, and I'm going to introduce you right out the gate to Mitchelle Blair. And this is just a little tiny clip, just a little, taste, and then we'll talk about her.
Of abuse that you had to suffer as a kid,
You mean sexual abuse?
if that's what happened?
That definitely did happen to me. That's why I know exactly how would have grew up. I told my mother what happened to me. And the only thing she said was, it's over with. So what the you want me to do about it? What you mean what I want you to do? You get what I'm saying? So all I could do is go back and sit in my room and just sit there and look stupid. I'm a kid. And I'm just telling you what happened to me. You didn't do about it. And plus I still had to see the person coming in and out my house. You still friends with that person.
So do you believe that the violent person you went on to become you were a product of your own childhood?
I mean, everybody have choices, so I can't just blame all that on my mom because I was still an adult. Maybe I should have tried hard to get over that. But anybody who knows me, that touching the kids, the molesting, that no.
Now I have to. I have a lot of places to choose from. To give you guys an in close uh meeting per se of Crime Watch Daily. Did the best one. I thought that that you could get to know her or a little bit about her without knowing any of the story. But I'm gonna tell you guys all of the story. um, so I'm giving credit to Crime Watch Daily for this little clip I have right here. It isn't very long at all. So let's get back to what she's saying. Please listen to her because it describes everything about her.
No. If that's one thing I definitely would have killed over, it would have always been that. It's like I grew up I even tried to talk to my mom when I got in my mid-20s. She had strokes and things like that. And I'm like, Mom, she could barely talk. You could barely talk. She had so many strokes. And I'm telling you what my problem was always with you. The hitting and all that. I just asked you to do something. The person lives around the corner on this particular time, it was just a woman named. She lived around the corner. She want to walk around like she big and bad all day. My mama, you big and bad. Everybody's scared of you. But when I come to you with some real and I tell you what happened to me, you didn't walk your around that corner and do to that woman like a coward. So
She don't hold no words back at all. If you look at her eyes when she's talking, that's pure honesty. She doesn't hold anything back. She is pretty cold-hearted. But at least for you to know why she's cold-hearted, she's telling you why.
no. And this is why I say my kids knew better, because I've always told them everything that happened to me. I told them why, because I don't understand why it took me so long to tell my mom when I was a kid. You never talked to me about like this, but when I did come to you, you didn't do. So I always made sure I told my kids this. I told them what happened to me, how it happened to me, how the made me feel in detail. And I say, if anybody ever touches y'all, you better tell me. They knew. I always talk to my kids about that touching from anybody. So they definitely knew. And this is the part that really gets me. I used to tell her, rape is the worst thing you can do. Just make it. I tell her all the time. They used to make me feel like I was nothing. It made me feel like I wasn't. You turn around and you do that to my son, you knew exactly what she was doing to him. She knew exactly what the fuck she was doing to him. So yeah, I don't care what anybody think. She had to go, period. So I damn sure wasn't about to let grew up mad as hell all the damn time, can't trust nobody. When it was just as simple as, you're my mother, do something. Didn't call the police, didn't do. Just said, it's over with now. What the you want me to do about it? That's my response. So yeah, that's the problem.
She is very clear-cut and dry with her responses. And I know you don't understand right now, but she's talking about her children. And what she told her children if someone ever touched them.
And this is what can happen to a kid. When like that goes, that wasn't happening to my son, period. So when I say he got closure, he got it. I know exactly what he was feeling. Even when my son was talking to me about some of the stuff, he would go like this to his face. And he was like, Mom, and it felt so nasty. And that right there, I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew how he was feeling because that's how I used to feel. When he did that, I knew it. There ain't no amount of talking. It was, no. So when you tell me she was a 13-year-old child, okay. Some of the most heinous crimes in this world has been by kids. So I don't want to hear that. That's my family. I don't give a damn what America thinks. But I also want to tell America they can kiss my ass. Don't throw no stones, because they got a whole lot coming their way too. They just feel more comfortable for them to be able to say, well, my sin is not as bad as yours. At least I didn't kill my kids. That in God's eyes, we all down here. That's period.
Okay.
But I love and I love and I'm always love him. That's my son.
Wow. I bet you some of you are thinking right now that you know what happened just by what she's saying. But hold on to your hats on this one. Because in 2015, 35-year-old Mitchelle Blair was living on the east side of Detroit with her 4 children when she was evicted for not paying rent. At first glance, nothing about Blair's case seemed particularly unusual. She was unemployed and had been struggling financially. Relatives say she had previously asked them for money. When the eviction crew came from the 36th District Court showed up at Blair's home on the morning of March 24th, 2015, she wasn't there. So the crew went inside and began removing furniture from her home. But when they went to move her freezer, they stumbled across a horrifying discovery that sent shockwaves through the Detroit community. When Wayne County Sheriff's Department bailiff opened a white deep freezer located in Mitchelle Blair's living room, they discovered the frozen body of a teenage girl wrapped in a large plastic bag. And buried beneath her was another body, a young boy wrapped in a blanket. A neighbor didn't waste any time disclosing Mitchelle Blair's whereabouts. The police found her at another neighbor's house with 2 of her children, ages 8 and 17. But her other children, Stefan Gage Berry and Stony Ann Blair, were missing. I want y'all to really let all this sink into you, because this will be the worst case I've ever covered. The most real, the real world that lives outside, the real world we don't even want to talk about. Because this is what some kids go through. Probably right now, even while I'm talking about this case. After some questioning, Mitchelle Blair confessed to killing the children and stuffing them in a freezer. As she was being handcuffed, she reportedly told the police that she was not evil. It was just an evil act, she said. Meanwhile, here's a few pictures of their home. Meanwhile, authorities took the bodies to the morgue, where they had to thaw out for 3 days before they could even do an autopsy. The bodies were identified as Stefan Berry and Stony Blair. The medical examiner ruled that their death was a homicide, naming blunt force trauma as their cause of death. The medical examiner also ruled thermal injuries had contributed to Stefan's death. It was determined that Stefan was killed in August of 2012 at the age of 9, and Stony was killed in May 2013 at the age of 13. They'd both been in the freezer for over 2 years. Let's talk about Stefan Gage Berry. Mitchelle Blair confessed to the murder at the circuit court. According to the Times record, she told Judge Dana Hathaway that she killed the demons after finding out that they were sexually abusing her youngest son, a claim that has never been substantiated. Blair said that on one day in August of 2012, she walked into a room of her Detroit home to find her youngest son simulating sexual acts with toys. Horrified, Blair asked him if anyone had ever touched him that way, and the boy allegedly told her that his 9-year-old brother had. Blair stormed into Stefan's room in a rage. After Stefan allegedly confessed to sexually abusing his younger brother, Blair immediately began punching him and kicking him. She said she continued to torture her son over a period of about 2 weeks, in addition to starving him and making him drink Windex, asphyxiating him with a plastic bag, and repeatedly pouring scalding hot water on his genitals, causing his skin to peel off. At one point, she wrapped a belt around his neck, lifted him up and asked, "Do you like how this feels?" Blair lifted Stefan off the ground by holding on to the ends of the belt while the belt was still wrapped around Stefan's neck. Said to petition to terminate Blair's parental rights to her surviving children, as reported by the USA Today. Blair used Force Flex bags to put over his nose and mouth, suffocating Stefan until he lost consciousness, and then Blair would slap him awake. Stefan succumbed to his injuries on August 30th, 2012, after finding him unresponsive beside a puddle of vomit. Mitchelle Blair wrapped his body in a blanket and hid him in a deep freezer. Unbelievable. Now, I'm not going to get off of this picture that I have up here right now, because these are the two children, and I want you to keep an eye on their face. And this is the murder now of Stony and Blair. Nine months after murdering Stefan, Mitchelle Blair claims she found out that her 13-year-old daughter, Stony, was also raping her youngest son. Blair reportedly asked the boy repeatedly if Stony had abused him, and he repeatedly said no. Not until Blair threatened to beat him if he didn't tell the truth. Blair began starving Stony and brutally torturing her until she died in May 2013. According to the petition, Blair had punched Stony in the face a lot, beating her with the 2x4 and asphyxiated her with the garbage bag until she lost consciousness. Later, Blair would claim that while killing Stefan was an accident, she had meant to kill Stony. She said, "I don't feel no remorse for the death of those demons." She said, according to people, "At first I cried, but I would kill them again. There were no other options." Mitchelle Blair put Stony's body in a plastic bag and stuffed her into the freezer on top of Stefan. Then she continued on as if nothing ever happened. Stephen Gage, Barry, and Stony and Blair were in the deep freezer for almost 3 years. Nobody looked for them. The children's fathers were largely absent from their lives, and Blair had previously taken all the children out of school. So when the neighbors asked about the children's whereabouts, Blair always had an excuse. In court, Mitchelle Blair had told the judge that she did not feel any remorse over her actions. "They had no remorse for what they did to my son." She said, "There's no excuse for rape." The prosecutor stated that if they had found no evidence of rape, and Mitchell's oldest child, Gabby, said there was no concrete evidence that either of the children were sexually assaulted by her younger brother. My mom became obsessed with this crazy notion that my siblings had sexually assaulted our youngest brother, and she stated, basically interrogating the youngest. Gabby Blair said in January of 2023 that she spoke out about her horrifying childhood on the Investigation Discovery True Crime show Evil Lies Here. Gabby claimed that her youngest brother only told Mitchelle about the alleged sexual assault after insistent questioning because he didn't know any better. My mom was like a ticking time bomb. She always had her fuse lit, so anything at the slightest tap would set her off. So in June of 2015, Mitchelle Blair pleaded guilty to 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder and 1 count of felony murder. She is now serving a life sentence in the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Michigan without the possibility of parole. Gabby Blair and her younger brother went to live with their great aunt after their mom's conviction. They both went back to school, and the young boy was eventually adopted. They have since been in therapy and deal with the trauma. I was afraid to even walk past that freezer every time I came downstairs to eat breakfast or to play a video game. I had to walk right past the freezer, Gabby recalled, but there was nowhere else that my mom could have hid those bodies. They were cooped up in the freezer like meat. Mitchelle Blair continued to torture Gabby and her younger brother even after the deaths of Stefan and Stony. Gabby said she was repeatedly burned with the curling iron and beaten with the wooden plank, and that she was constantly terrified she would become the next body in the freezer. Made sure to watch that I was what I said around my mother. I already knew that one misstep and this is where I would end up, and I'm happy I was able to make it out alive. So, who was Mitchelle Blair? Again, the police found out about Mitchelle Blair, who's only 35 when she was getting evicted. News stories like printed out and made fun of her and made fun of because of this horrible crime by calling her the freezer mom. And as you saw in the video I played earlier, this is a stone cold, no feeling about her children. That's for sure. But her responses on being questioned about the crime, she replied that her children were turning into demons. So she decided to kill them. Not only that, she said she'd do it again. Those kids were in that freezer for 3 years. And all of this happened because of sexual molestation by the children. She alleged that the two children that she killed were sexually molesting her youngest son. Per the reports of August 2012, when Blair returned home, she found that her youngest son, Matthew, was using a doll to sexually stimulate himself. And when she questioned him about it, his replies that his older brother Stefan often abused him sexually. This angered her, and she confronted him. So I'm just going back over this because it's a lot of information, and it's horrible. I had to go over this 3 or 4 times for myself to say, okay, what now? So I'm going to go over the bullet points. Because Blair asked Stephen if he tried to molest Matthew. He did. He confessed that he did. But enraged, she started to kick and punch him before strangling him to death. And she even poured hot water on his private parts. When it came to Stony, now that's the part that I didn't really understand, is that she attacked them separately. She waited 9 months after Stephen's death. She found out, about the daughter Stony was also molesting him, Matthew, that is. And I've just wondered, why did she start molesting him after the boy was gone? Or was she doing it all along? It's just weird how there's a separation there. But she starved her and beat her to death in May 2013 and claimed that she wanted to turn herself in. But because Matthew did not want to live without his mother, she simply stuffed the bodies in the freezer. She was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. While she was in court, Blair said she'd do it all over again if she had to. She said, I don't care what anybody thinks. She had to go, period. When I say he got closure, he got it. I know exactly what he was feeling. I know what he was feeling because that's exactly how I used to feel, she said about the crime she committed. She totally understood the young boy's pain. And I think because the same things happened to her when she was younger, that is why she took the action she did, right or wrong. But because she said she understood exactly how he felt and saying that's exactly how I used to feel, then that means she was getting back at everybody for her and for him on these two children. Investigations Discovery True Crime series Evil Lies Here featured Blair's story in an episode titled I Made It Out Alive. So you can go watch that and get a whole good reason on it. Blair's neighbors described her as being quite calm and composed with a good heart. Now, as per reports, Mitchelle Blair had accumulated around 28 misconducts by March 2017. She was accused of assaulting and spitting on other prisoners, using cans to throw urine and feces at correctional officers, and was even hitting police personnel because of her conduct. Blair was sentenced to an additional 38 months to 5 years. But she still has some pent-up anger.
My son, I intentionally killed her. So for the whole 9 months we were in the house, she was still raping my child. I did not know that. When I first found out, I punched her. I have put a bag over her head till she lost consciousness. I threw hot water on her, scalding hot water from the faucet. I hit her on her head multiple times, over and over. I hit on her back, it's like with her tailbone. I kicked her. She had started with Stephen. She ruined my son. She would take her pad, her menstrual pad, and squeeze her blood out in his mouth.
You meant to kill her?
I definitely meant to kill her.
It wasn't an accident.
My son was standing to my right outside the bathroom door, and he was telling me everything he was telling me. I looked at her and I'm like, you did this? And she was like, yes. So I actually had a stick and I was hitting her in the head. Every time he told me something, I hit her very hard in her head, and I was
I'm going to play that one again. I'm going to play this one again.
throwing hot water on her. If I had a chance to do it again, I would. She raped my son. I intentionally killed her. So for the whole 9 months we were in the house, she was still raping my child. I did not know that. When I first found out, I punched her. I have put a bag over her head till she lost consciousness. I threw hot water on her, scalding hot water from the faucet. I hit her on her head multiple times, over and over. I hit on her back, it's like with her tailbone. I kicked her. She had started with Stephen. She ruined my son. She would take her pad, her menstrual pad, and squeeze her blood out in his mouth.
You meant to kill her?
I definitely meant to kill her.
It wasn't an accident.
My son was standing to my right outside the bathroom door, and he was telling me everything he was telling me. I looked at her and I'm like, you did this? And she was like, yes. So I actually had a stick and I was hitting her in the head. Every time he told me something, I hit her very hard in her head, and I was throwing hot water on her. If I had a chance to do it again, I would. She raped my son.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. She's so calm in saying what she did. And I know some people won't agree. I mean, there's a part of me that understands how far you go for your kid. Wow. The pad got me, the female pad, saying the girl used it on the young boy and putting it in his mouth. That's gross. Just thinking that a kid had these kind of thoughts to do these things. But I can see I I hate to say that I can understand and see her side, but I can. I just can see it. I know why she did what she did. Is it horrible? Yeah. Do I say it's justified? No. She needed some help. But she did, I guess, what she thinks she had to do. But this has to be the worst crime that I have ever covered. There is no remorse here. There is no one looking for the I'm sorry for what I did, because she is not sorry. And that doesn't come from me. It came right out of her mouth. She is not sorry for what she did. And she'd do it again. No ifs, ands, or buts. Thank you all for coming. Please stop by and hit the like button. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all soon.